I never believed in the stories old hikers used to whisper around campfires about trails that show up out of nowhere, paths not marked on any map, places that feel like they were never meant to be walked. I thought they were just tales to scare rookies. That was until I found one myself. It was late September when I decided to hike alone in the northern woods. The air had that crisp bite that comes just before fall turns cruel. I was on a well-worn trail I'd taken before, one that curved gently along a ridge overlooking the forest. My plan was simple: hike in, camp one night near the stream, and hike out the next morning. Nothing extreme, just solitude, silence, and the crunch of leaves underfoot. By late afternoon, I noticed something strange. The forest around me felt different. The sounds of birds had gone quiet. The wind, which had been constant all day, stilled suddenly, like the forest was holding its breath. I tried brushing it off. Maybe the change in altitude had something to do with it. Or maybe I was just getting too far from the main trail. I checked my GPS, still on track, still right where I should be. Then I saw it. Off to my right, partially hidden between two gnarled trees, was a trail I had never seen before. At first I assumed it was just a deer path or an old logging route. But the ground was oddly clear. No fallen branches, no overgrowth. It was as if someone had recently swept it clean. The trees on either side arched unnaturally, their trunks bending inwards, forming a kind of tunnel. I stood there for a minute, trying to figure out why I felt so uneasy. There was something wrong with how quiet it had gotten. No rustling, no insects, not even the sound of my own breathing felt real anymore. I told myself I'd just check it out for a minute. Take a few steps in and turn around if it got too weird. Just curiosity, just a side path. The temperature dropped the moment I stepped onto the trail, a sharp contrast to the warm afternoon sun I'd just been walking in. I pulled my jacket tighter and moved forward. The light dimmed quickly, even though it was still hours from sunset. The canopy above was thick, yes, but not that thick. It felt like something was draining the color from the world. About 30 feet in, I noticed the smell. Earthy, but not in the good way. Damp soil mixed with something older, something metallic, like rust or blood. I turned to look behind me and saw nothing. The trail I'd come from wasn't there. The trees had closed in, no arch, no ridge, just endless forest. I blinked hard. I knew. I'd only walked a few steps in. I hadn't even heard anything move behind me. But now, the path I'd come from was gone. My heartbeat picked up. I told myself not to panic. People get turned around in forests all the time. It's just the trees messing with your perception. I could retrace my steps. Except when I turned back and started walking, it didn't feel like I was retracing anything. The trees didn't look familiar. And worse, every few steps I swore I saw movement just out of the corner of my eye. Shadows darting between trees. But when I turned my head, nothing was there. I paused again, tried to breathe. That's when I saw it. Carved into a nearby tree was a symbol I didn't recognize. 3 circles overlapping, with a line drawn through the center vertically. It looked fresh, like it had been cut in just days ago. Below it, nailed into the bark, was a strip of weathered red cloth, and next to it, half buried in the dirt, was an old hiking boot. Moldy, torn. I reached down to touch it, and that's when the wind came back, violent, sudden, howling, and with it, something whispered my name. Not loud, not threatening, just familiar, like someone I used to know, someone long gone. I should have turned back, I should have run. But something about that whisper, that feeling of being recognized in a place that shouldn't even exist, it pulled me deeper. And before I knew it, I was walking again, leaving the boot, the tree, and maybe even the real world behind. I don't know how long I kept walking. The deeper I went, the more the forest seemed to shift around me, like it was folding in on itself. The trees grew impossibly tall, their trunks blackened and cracked, as though they'd been burned and left to rot. But there was no scent of fire, only that strange coppery tang in the air. The trail under my feet didn't feel natural anymore. It was too smooth, too deliberate, like it had been carved for a reason other than travel. Sometimes I thought I saw faint footprints ahead of me, just for a second before the wind erased them. Once, I crouched to examine a set. It was a child's, barefoot, the toes pointed in my direction, as if whoever they belonged to had been standing and watching, waiting. The trees began to whisper then. At least that's what it sounded like. Faint voices carried by the breeze, overlapping, muttering, just beyond understanding. I couldn't tell if they were speaking a language I didn't know or if my brain was refusing to accept the meaning. Every time I stopped to listen, they'd hush, like a secret too dangerous to be heard directly. That's when I started seeing them. They weren't people exactly, more like silhouettes, thin and still, pressed between trees, watching. I could feel their eyes on me, though they didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I tried calling out once, "Hello?" And the forest answered me with silence so deep, it felt like falling. Even my own footsteps stopped making noise after that. I pressed on, desperate to find an end, a clearing, anything that made sense. That's when I found the campsite, or what was left of it. There were remnants scattered around a shallow fire pit, half-burned logs, a rusted pot, a rotting backpack with a torn shoulder strap. Everything was faded and crumbling, like it had been abandoned for decades, but I recognized something immediately. The logo on the backpack. It was from a local outfitter, one that hadn't even opened until 3 years ago. This wasn't old. Someone had been here recently. I knelt beside the pit and picked up a damp, dirty notebook. The first few pages were blank, smeared with mildew. But further in, I found handwriting. Shaky, rushed, but legible. The entries weren't dated, but they grew increasingly panicked. "We shouldn't have taken the path. It wasn't here before. We didn't mean to go in. He heard something, said it sounded like his brother, but his brother's been dead for 6 years. The trees moved. I swear to God they moved. There's no way out. We've circled back 3 times. Something's following us. It only comes at night." The last entry was smeared with something reddish-brown. I put the notebook down and stood quickly, my breath shallow. I felt eyes on me again, closer now. The forest pressed inward. The air grew thicker, heavier. I needed to leave. That's when I heard it. Not the whispers, not the wind, but something else. Footsteps, behind me, measured, deliberate. I spun around, nothing. But when I turned back, the campsite was gone. Just vanished, replaced by more trees. I don't know how I didn't scream. I ran. I didn't care where anymore. I just ran. The trail was gone, the forest closing in tighter with every step. My flashlight flickered, even though I hadn't used it all day. I switched it off instinctively, trying to listen. That was a mistake, because in the dark, I finally heard them clearly. The whispers, no longer just voices, names. My name, repeated in different tones, male, female, childlike, some crying, some laughing, all wrong, and one of them sounded exactly like me. I collapsed near a hollow tree, my chest heaving, ears ringing. Something cold brushed past my neck, like breath or fingers. I stayed frozen, barely breathing. Then I heard a low groan, long and distant. It didn't sound human. When I opened my eyes, I noticed something etched into the base of the tree. That same symbol, 3 circles, and the vertical line. Only this time, it was pulsing faintly, like it was alive. I was no longer just lost. I was being kept. I don't know how long I sat there, pressed against the hollow tree, trying to make myself invisible. Every minute stretched like an hour. The air around me pulsed, thick with something I couldn't describe, like dread made tangible. The strange symbol carved into the bark continued to glow with a faint, sickly white light, just enough to see my own trembling hands. I kept telling myself I had to move, that staying in one place was worse, that whatever was following me was waiting. I could feel it, something just out of sight, circling, watching, whispering. Not with words anymore, but with thoughts, intrusive and strange, thoughts that weren't mine. You've always belonged here. There is no way back. Why did you come looking? I don't remember standing up, but I found myself walking again. My legs moved on instinct, but I didn't know if I was walking towards safety or deeper into this nightmare. The trees around me seemed to shift when I wasn't looking, twisting, realigning, reshaping the path, trails that looped back on themselves. I'd mark a tree with my knife, only to pass it again 10 minutes later from a different direction. At one point, I stumbled into a shallow stream. My relief was instant and overwhelming. I'd remembered from my original hike that the main river trail ran near a stream like this. Water means direction. Water leads somewhere, maybe out, maybe home. I dropped to my knees and drank without hesitation, the cold biting at my teeth. I didn't care. I just needed something real, something normal. That's when I heard it again. Footsteps behind me. Fast this time, desperate. I stood, heart pounding, and called out. Hello? Silence. Then I saw someone, a figure, half hidden in the trees across the stream, standing still. I squinted, barely able to make out the outline in the dim light. It was a man, I think, wearing a jacket like mine, backpack slung over one shoulder, head tilted too far to one side, like his neck had given out. I should have run. Every instinct told me to. But instead, I stepped forward. Just one step. He mirrored me, step for step. I raised my hand, slowly, so did he. But when I waved, he didn't wave back. He smiled. And it wasn't my face, not really. But something trying to be me. Something wearing a poor imitation of my skin. Its smile stretched too wide, its eyes hollow and leaking something dark. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran, crashing through branches, slicing my arms on thorns, not caring. I didn't stop until the trees started to thin, until I saw a faint orange glow up ahead. At first I thought it was the sunset, but it was too low, too still. It was fire. A single lantern, hanging from a crooked post beside what looked like an old abandoned ranger's cabin. Its windows were shattered, the door sagging on one hinge. But it was shelter. It was something man-made. I rushed inside without thinking. Dust exploded into the air as I pushed through. The place was ancient, maps curled on the walls, a metal desk rusting at the corners, a filing cabinet barely standing. But most importantly, there was a radio. It was old, analog, probably hadn't worked in decades, but when I turned the knob, static. Then a voice. Anyone? Copy. Is anyone out there? I nearly cried. Yes, yes, I'm here, I shouted into the mic. I'm lost. Please, I need help. A pause. Then, how long have you been on the trail? I don't know. Hours, maybe more. Please, I don't know how to get out. More static. Then the voice again. Lower this time. You need to burn the symbol. It's the only way. What? Burn it, or it keeps you. The radio went dead. I stood there shaking, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. Burn the symbol? What symbol? The one on the trees? I remembered the glowing mark. The one that pulsed like a heartbeat. The one near the hollow tree. I didn't want to go back, but I had no choice. I grabbed a rusted oil lantern from the wall and filled it with what little fuel remained. Then I left, retracing my steps as best I could. The forest welcomed me again, but not kindly. It was darker now, though I knew the sun hadn't fully set. Shapes moved beside me. I heard breathing from places that weren't there. The wind carried screams that faded too quickly. When I finally found the hollow tree again, the symbol was still there, pulsing stronger than before. It knew I was back. I could feel it watching me through the bark, waiting. I lit the lantern. The flame roared to life, brighter than it should have been. I held it up to the symbol, hesitating for only a moment, then pressed it into the mark. The sound it made was not like wood burning. It screamed. The air around me exploded into motion. The trees groaned. The forest howled. The whispers turned to wails. Desperate, angry, afraid. Shadows peeled off the trees like old skin and tried to swarm the flame, but I held fast. The mark blackened, then cracked, then turned to ash, and suddenly silence. The air changed. The trees stopped watching. A breeze rolled through, clean and cool, and through the clearing, I saw a trail I hadn't seen before. A real trail, dirt and roots and scattered leaves. A bird called out somewhere above me, just a bird. And for the first time in what felt like days, I cried. I followed that path, not knowing where it led. Only that it was real, and that whatever had held me before had let go. When I emerged from the forest hours later, the sun was rising. My car was still where I left it. No one had searched for me. My phone, somehow, still had 78% battery, but no missed calls, no texts, no signs. Anyone even noticed I was gone. It was like I never left, but I know better. There are places in this world that don't want to be found. Paths that appear only to those who need to find them, or who never should. And sometimes they don't let you go.